is not to dictate requirements. Your job is to facilitate the collaboration, where we'll get developers and testers and everybody's going to start asking questions, and we'll do these feedback exercises, and we'll kind of try and flush out as many assumptions as possible. And we'll start effectively doing collaborative analysis. And these would typically be either in Word documents or in wikis or in Jira or kind of things like that. So after that, that goes to kind of developers. Developers magic up code. And while magicking up code, they come up with lots of edge cases and boundary conditions and problems in the database. And these were typically handled with kind of phone calls or emails and stuff like that. So there's knowledge all over the place. At some point, kind of somebody said, well, you know, we should use SharePoint for this, but it's ironic how difficult it is to share stuff in SharePoint, so kept using email. And after kind of this whole thing, we had, you know, these poor guys at the end trying to do some tests, and then they started feeding back lots of problems with requirements, through test cases, through lots of stuff. So there was about 10 different versions of truth on this. And if we just think about, okay, you know, we're going to run this in a short iterative cycle, we have only 2 weeks to do stuff, why on earth are we spending 2 or 3 days out of those 2 weeks just kind of maintaining 10 different versions of truth? And ironically, when, you know, these things diverge in opinion, then we get into an open fight, who's right, who's wrong, who's updated it from the email, who's not updated emails, and there's this insane chain of emails in one project I was involved in, where one of the business guys said, okay, I've covered different parts of this process in my last 20 emails, please just go through that and everything's going to be fine. So it's kind of completely an insane process. So this is where we started noticing something similar to what the guys at USwitch did. USwitch is one of the largest UK websites, and they had this problem where they had a ton of tests that nobody understood in QTP, by a couple of thousand, I think, and 70% of them were failing. Nobody knew why they were failing or how to fix them, and they were kind of expected failures, and this is an unsustainable process. And in order to fix it, kind of, they got to the same conclusion that testers can't be responsible for executing the tests because there's just too much work to do. And they got some developers to work with testers on kind of reverse engineering this stuff, but developers, of course, wouldn't touch QTP. I'm not going to say with what because I'm being filmed. And kind of developers said, okay, we need to, you know, we'll use one of those kind of tools that allows us to kind of code nicely, and then they found something that testers can understand, developers can code nicely, and they started working back from that. And after they started working back from that, they realized that, well, a ton of this stuff just doesn't make sense. So when the business people look at it, it just doesn't make sense. And why are we discovering this stuff in testing? Why are we not discovering this stuff early on? And they realized that if they divide writing the test from automating it or executing it, there's a ton of feedback that comes just from writing a test and trying to get people to agree on it, assuming we can write it in a way that people can actually read. The problem with that is that most of the teams I work with capture tests in a way that even testers can't understand 2 weeks later. So showing that to a business user and saying, is this what you wanted, is kind of pretty much pointless. The reason why retrospectives work so well, the reason why, iteration demos work so well is we finally have something to show people to complain about. People very often kind of psychologically can't tell you what they want, but they will tell you that you are wrong very easily. It's much easier to complain about something concrete than to actually come up with good requirements. And that's why iteration demos work so well. So we give people something concrete to complain about, and then they say, yeah, I told you this, but that's not what I wanted. So kind of what the guys at USwitch realized is that if you write your tests the right way, they can be complete enough for people to complain. We can decouple that feedback, we can bring that feedback much earlier in the cycle and discover all these problems without having to fight them all the time. So, can we start? There's the key problem there, I think, is finding something that would allow us to maintain one source of truth, one version of truth, something that business people, analysts, developers, testers, and anybody else who's concerned about this can use to figure out, is this what I wanted to say? Is this what I wanted to